This is the Friday edition of Breaking the News Plus at the end of another very long week in the Twin Cities. And to mark that occasion, I guess for lack of a better term, I've invited someone I admire deeply, Dr. Corey Yeager. He is a therapist and he has clients that are the biggest names in all of show business and sports. But I wanted to talk to him about the last couple of weeks. Welcome, Dr. Yeager.
Thank you, Janet. It is really good to join you today.
Thank you. So, Dr. Yeager, I heard you on the great Angela Davis show on Minnesota Public Radio. A monumentous day. She came back cancer-free, which is awesome. And you talked with Angela about the term collective anxiety. And it was the first time I heard a name or a label placed on what I feel like myself and a lot of folks are feeling in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, I think that's, Jenna, what we are in the Twin Cities area, what we're suffering from is this idea of a collectivized anxiety, almost through a version of collective consciousness. All that we're seeing and dealing with every time we turn on the news, we turn the radio on, we're hearing about this unrelenting anxiety and this trauma that we're all dealing with. And to be clear, Jana, we're dealing with really a vicarious version of trauma. We've seen multiple times over these last few years trauma happen in our own backyards, and then collectively we will endure anxiety. And one of the things that I say oftentimes, Jenna, is that anxiety seeks isolation. So anxiety wants us to pull away from one another. It wants us to isolate ourselves because then it can breed itself. So one of the things that we must do in this day and age, in these days as we struggle, is be with one another. And that doesn't mean we have to have answers. I think that's another thing that we struggle with. We think that we should have answers, but in these moments, that is not necessarily the key. The key is to be with one another and find our way forward collectively through this version of togetherness.
That's so interesting. And does anxiety work its ways when you talk about isolation? It wants that. When you are feeling anxious, or when I am feeling anxious, and especially covering the news in this endless cycle, it seems like, of trauma, I want to isolate. I don't want to be in community, is kind of what the devil on my shoulder is telling me. Stop talking, stop moving, just go to sleep and be away from people.
Yeah, it does. It tells us that it authors a story that is not necessarily what we need to hear. We tell ourselves this story over and over. Just pull away from people. The only way you're going to manage this is just to kind of isolate yourself and not be engaged with others. But we know that not to be the truth. That we regulate as human beings, we regulate ourselves in and through relationships. So if we isolate ourselves, the opportunity to regulate diminishes itself exponentially. So finding the opportunity to be with one another, one of the things that I'm saying more and more these days, Jana, is that we have to do a better job at recognizing who's in our circle, right? To kind of reevaluating who are the people that are really and truly in my circle. And as we go through this chaos, tighten that circle, engage with that circle more often, be curious within that circle. That is where healing will occur. And we have to be clear that healing does not happen from any outside force, that we as a community will heal ourselves within, right? It won't come from outside forces. It will be us collectively coming together to heal ourselves. And that's a tricky space, especially in Minnesota over the last few years, because as soon as we get out of one situation, here comes something else. And then we start to recover, and here comes something else. But we will surely endure this process and find our way forward through this suffering.
You know, I can't help but ask you about the context of this. Symbols and dates to me sometimes have meanings or signs. I try to look for ways through my own uncertainty And we, on Monday, approach Dr. King Day, Dr. Martin Luther King Day. And obviously, in the 60s in America, collective anxiety was felt as people pushed for their basic civil rights to be recognized as the humans they are in a beloved community. And as we get to that date, while we're still in this period of pain and uncertainty, what parallels could we learn from history?
Yeah, I think that we have to do a better job of looking back. There's a term, Sankofa, that we look back as we move forward, right? This will help us chart our way forward based on what we've already experienced individually and collectively. I think that we have to realize and recognize the idea that to live is to endure suffering, and to survive is to find meaning in that suffering. Well, it is clear in this day and age, as a state, collectively, we're suffering. And at some point, we're going to have to find our way forward and endure this suffering and find meaning in this suffering, and figure out what it is from our past that haunts us today. We talk about MLK and the suffering through the civil rights movement that produced so many new opportunities. But the other thing that I'm reminded of, Jana, in these moments is that with all growth, there is associated pain. So if we're going to grow and be better, more often than not, you're going to have to endure some suffering and some pain and some discomfort. But if we can reframe that discomfort into seeing that as an opportunity or an indicator that we're growing, I think that we can deal with that pain more often. I think it's a much deeper struggle if you don't have hope. If it feels helpless, then that pain is not even worth it. So why would I lean into it if I don't see that there's hope or that help is on its way? And oftentimes, the glasses and the lenses that we are looking through are not hopeful these days.
I certainly feel that. I'm sure some people do too. I want to go back to something you said right when we started talking about being in community or showing up even if you don't have answers. And I think that's important because part of people's fear of even engaging, I'm just going to guess, is that they don't have answers. They don't want to fight about the topics all surrounding what's happening in our community right now. They feel like they'll be judged, et cetera, et cetera. But you're saying still just show up even if you don't know everything.
Yeah, and we can't be fooled into thinking that we should have all the answers. None of us, we're not going to have all of the answers. But through the connectedness, through those relationships, just knowing that others will be with me and that I can be with others, we find a modicum of comfort. And as we go through all that we're going through, what we're searching for every day is some level of comfort, some level of relief from moment to moment. And then we look to the horizon in the hopes that things will get better. And as we're enduring it in these moments, it's very hard to see the beauty that may be in our future. It's it's almost elusive, it seems. But this idea of being together, that we can find our way forward together, right? This process is not something that we will endure individually and alone. We won't make it that way, but we can some way somehow make it if we all stick together and come together. As I said earlier, Janet, that we have to figure out who is in my social network. There will be people that I don't need in my network any longer that were previously in that network. So almost kind of re-engaging my way of thinking and figuring out who is in that network, and then telling those people, hey, you're part of my network. I want you to know that you're important to me. I'm going to need to lean on you. I'm telling you that you can lean on me. And then we can tighten that group and do better within those networks. And if we're all doing that, all of a sudden, there's a mass of movement that will move us forward through these tough times.
That makes sense. Right? You're giving actually practical advice, like suppose I'm a cord and I'm looking for an outlet, and there may not be as many as there were 6 months ago. Maybe things have
Yeah.
changed, but when I find the ones I still have, plug in and charge.
That's right. That's right. And we are right now, if we use the metaphor analogy of a cell phone, it gets down in the red at 5%. You're searching for some anywhere to plug in. So we're going to take our time. We're going to find the right outlets to plug in and recharge because the battle ensues. It's in front of us. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So finding those spaces in which to plug in and re-energize ourselves and showing up and being together, I think, are the critical aspects of what we have in front of us.
The last thing I want to talk to you about is in this age of information everywhere, on your phone, on your laptop, on your TV, on your podcast, you kind of can self-serve, self-soothe with the messages you want. And in this particular case, that of course the immigration enforcement surge came to Minnesota in early December, but it obviously hit this crescendo with the killing of Renee Good last week. And almost immediately, different from perhaps some other times in history, there is two narratives going on, and some saying what you're seeing is not what you're seeing, and others saying what you're seeing is exactly what you're seeing. And it creates in this, for me at least, and for people I know and care about who have shared with me, that term cognitive dissonance. Like I don't understand why we're not fighting over the same set of facts, and
Yeah.
that too can feel isolating.
Sure. And we've, for the first time in my experience, there are no longer just truths and facts. There are like multiple sets of truths, quote unquote truths, and multiple sets of facts that are differing depending upon which group that you're a part of. So it becomes even harder for us to figure out, all right, so what is the fact? What is the truth in this matter? And then what we do is we lean into whatever group it is that we're a part of and take that as the gospel. And the fact is, the truth oftentimes lies in the middle somewhere. So doing our own research, finding our information, not just listening to the echo chambers that are around us that are filled with whatever version of truth that echo chamber seeks to push forward. So figuring that out is a disciplined approach. But one of the things that I know is that we suffer from one of two pains across our lifetimes. The pain of discipline. If I'm gonna figure things out, I'm gonna be disciplined. That's gonna be painful. So figuring out what the truth is and doing my own research is moving in a disciplined way. That's painful. The other pain is the pain of regret, that if we don't do these things, if we don't figure out our way forward, we'll look back with high levels of regret, and we don't want to live our lives in that way. So we seek this disciplined approach and figuring out our way forward, and that will always be with other humans in connection, in tandem, and that's the work that's in front of us that we must do.
I'd be remiss if I didn't end with, looking in your office, obviously homages to your own athletic history, and your work in the NBA and in sport always comes to mind when I think of metaphor. We so celebrate the greatness, right? I think of the Indiana football team right now. This group of people that came together and worked together and probably put in all of that discipline and hard work when nobody was watching. And then at the end of the story, when the results come in, people are like, "I love this success! Yay, 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 yay!"
Yeah,
But there's all the work on the back end,
that's right.
both with us in sport and with us in life, right? That hard work of
Yes,
finding actual truths can be painful. Listening
yes,
to others or trying to figure things out or letting go of relationships that may not be serving either one of you, painful. But the painful is moving you forward, like a sports team, right?
that's 100% right. And realizing, and I think social media has impacted us in multiple ways, and there's a ton of positives. But one of the things that it's done is taught us to see only the end result.
Right.
Right, I've done a lot of work with Selena Gomez, and she's got billions of followers. And if you go to her Instagram, you'll see all these beautiful things, but you won't see the struggles that she's had and the things that she's had to endure throughout that journey. We only see that end compilation of beautiful, whatever these pictures and these experiences are. So realizing that the journey is the process, and the journey is what we should be seeking, that we should fall in love with the journey, and wherever that takes us, we'll figure that out. But the day-to-day approach, recognizing and realizing that the only true reality we have is this current moment. What happened yesterday is gone, will never return. What's to happen tomorrow, we have no idea. It's all made up in our minds, the past and the future. So what do we have left? Only this current moment. So hold tight to it, be in concert, in relationship, and seek to be with one another and move our agendas forward.
I can't think of a better way to move into a weekend in these Twin Cities and this state with that advice for all of us watching and for all of us privileged to listen to you. Dr. Yeager, I thank you for being on our show tonight and sharing that wisdom with us. We certainly do need it.
Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it.
Have a blessed and safe weekend. And that's all for us on Breaking the News Plus on this Friday night. Take care and stay safe.